What's up, college football fans and Mean Green fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. Today, joined by a special guest in Caleb Howe, a former player for the North Texas Mean Green, just 1 year removed, and really provides a really inside look on the program and where the team's at now, being that he's just so freshly removed from said team, right? But before we get into all of that, guys, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football and G5 football, any or all of the above, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. All right, Kyla, we got to let them know. So we did a video for about for a good amount of time, longer than my normal ones. And we just didn't have the right connection. We got kind of disconnected. And by God, Kyle's not going to let that slide. He said, let's do it all over again. So here we go, second attempt at it. But anyway, Kyle, thank you so much for jumping on. Let everybody know, what are you doing now post-football?
Yeah, so right now I'm an industrial real estate broker. I do warehouses for businesses and selling and leasing. Just if you need a warehouse, that's kind of what we specialize in.
And you've got a little North Texas alumni connection at your current place of work.
Yeah. So a guy named William LeMasters who used to play at North Texas. He was also my roommate. He's been helping me out quite a bit. He kind of helped me get this job and took me under his wing. And the Mean Green connection, it's still running deep.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I'm sure when you're calling the shots, you'll pay it forward, and that you'll just keep on going, keep on building. So anyway, just kind of jumping right into it. You are probably the biggest Ani defender that probably out there that will jump out publicly and threaten to fight people and stuff like that. But that being said, I'm really proud of you from afar. You haven't threatened anybody yet, myself included, which I don't want to run into you on the streets. But but I mean, you do feel a certain way about Ani, and you've seen him. You have reason to feel those way. I mean, you and everybody else on the team, know the intricacies better than any of us from outside looking in, just making observations. And I was on here as well as pretty much everybody else who has a UNT podcast, and there's a lot of them. There's the Green Room and the Go Mean Green and the Mean Green Nation, and just there's a long list of us guys who care probably more than we should. But we were very critical of Ani post UTSA, and we put a lot of blame on him from that, and the hopes. I mean, we were so close in that game, which probably makes it even all that worse. But then we go play at Western Kentucky, who were 10-point underdogs too at their place, and they're a solid team. They have a winning record prior to playing us. They still have one. They have some quality wins. Took UTSA to the wire. Took Indiana to the wire, which I know Indiana's not a world beater right now, but still a Power 5. Beat UAB. I mean, Western Kentucky is a solid program and a good team this year, and we killed them. And why did we kill them? A big part of that, victory came because of Austin Ani's success. And he passed for about 68%, 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards, no picks. And, as much as we like to blame him for things, I mean, that was probably the best game of his career, I think. But are you surprised at that kind of game from Ani, or what are your thoughts on that? And why are you so quick to jump to his defense? And what have you seen from him through your time playing with him?
Well, one, a big reason I defend Ani is because I've seen all of the backstories, and I've seen how hard he's worked to be where he is, and the fact that he's 29 years old, still playing college football. And the biggest thing that gets me going when people, berate him and say he's not a good quarterback, or I hear a lot of he's an average quarterback. I mean, the guy's like first in Conference USA in touchdowns or yards. He's got 23 touchdowns on the year, 9 interceptions, which is really a good ratio. And some of those, a couple of those 9 interceptions, if you go back and watch the tape, probably not his fault. And so, I mean, and he would even tell you, some of those interceptions were probably his fault, but people are so quick to, and I didn't say this on the first copy, but I think people were so used to like a Mason Fine, which Mason is like a once in a generation talent. I mean, he is an absolute stud, but to say Ani is just an average Conference USA quarterback is not fair, especially when he's first in all those categories. And I mean, we're 4-1 in conference, and before UTSA, I mean, we were still 2-0 in conference, and people were still saying he's just an average quarterback. I may be a little biased, but I'm riding with Ani till the wheels fall off. I've seen how hard he's worked. I've seen him prepare, and he really the team's behind him, and so that's why people get so defensive of him because he's our guy. He's our quarterback.
Speaking of riding with Ani till the wheels fall off, so he's said that this will be his last year, and just this is it. He wanted to come back for one more year, and that was going to be it. Now, there's a lot to play for still yet, and these games are meaningful, and there's a lot on the table for North Texas to accomplish. Do you think there's any shot he comes back for his true last year of eligibility and for
Yeah.
next season?
I mean, I know he's said no, but I know Ani is a competitor and he likes to compete, and I don't know if it's going to be a Tom Brady situation where he retires and comes back, but he's also I think in his mind, me and him talked about it probably before the season. Hadn't really talked to him since then about it, but he does have a family to think about. He's got a little girl, and so who knows what's going to happen. And I don't want to speak for him, but he has, came out publicly and said it's his last year, but he's a competitor. So who knows if he feels like he's still got it and the wife's behind him on it, which I don't know if she would be. And I think he would like to run it back, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, and it'll be something interesting to keep your eye on, though. All right. So, kind of jumping into this recap of the Western Kentucky game again. 10-point underdogs go in there completely dominate. I mean, you do at Western Kentucky, and Austin plays out of his mind like we just talked about, and the run game is the run game. I mean, we could just talk on and on about Coach Cobbs and the stable of backs he has, and yeah, just tremendous job they're doing there. But really, what stuck out to you in this Western Kentucky game? From either side of the ball that really just has you juiced and this season is more than just a pulse. I mean, this season is. There's like we're kind of front runners for
We can do this, dude.
yeah, yeah.
And I love to see it on Twitter how just it's so funny because after the UTSA game, it was oh, we're gonna win another game, blah, blah, blah. And then we played great against UTSA, but I still saw some people who didn't believe in us. And then we beat Western Kentucky, and the script kind of flipped. And the biggest thing about Western Kentucky was I wasn't surprised we won, but I was surprised in the fashion that we won. But I think the fashion that we won was due to the fact that when we played UTSA, we had beaten La Tech, who wasn't a super great football team. We had beaten FAU, who has not been doing very well. And I think when we played UTSA, that's when we decided, like, man, we can play with these guys. We can play with the number one team in the conference. And we were winning up until the last second of the game. And so I think that momentum carried on into the next week in that mindset of we can beat anyone, we can compete with anyone. And we went and dominated Western Kentucky. It wasn't even close.
Okay, so speaking of some of the players and kind of moving over to the tight ends and again, offensive line running backs, just steak sauce, right? I mean, just A++, they're just great. But kind of moving over to the tight ends and losing Jason Pirtle, he graduated with you and exited in that class. And, again, his athleticism may not have, jumped out at you or whatever, but he was very dependable. He always found the sticks and, chain gang and all that, kept him moving. And he was an asset for North Texas and a really good player for a lot of years. But being that, he's gone now, it's made room for the Jake Roberts and the Varkey's Gums, who just seem to have taken what Jason has laid and are now building on it with Coach Mays, you coaching him up and everything. But Are you surprised at the production that you're seeing from these two, being that, you've seen you've seen Jake for a few years, you were there 1 year with Gums, but what are your thoughts on the production from those two players at that position?
I was never surprised about Jake because ever since day one that he came in, when I was an H-back at that time, so we were in the same room, he's been a dog. I mean, he's a technician when it comes to blocking. He does exactly what Coach Mays asked him to, and that's why he's one of the best blocking tight ends in college football, in my opinion, and he makes plays with his hands. Varkey's, on the other hand, I knew he was going to be something special when he was playing scout team last year because there was some catches he would make that it made you tilt your head a little bit. And it's like, man, he's mossing some of our starting DBs on scout team. He's breaking it off his routes like he's a receiver. And he's just a physical specimen. I mean, he's like, 6'3", I don't know, 230, 240, but he looks like he's a Greek god and running out there making plays, insane catches. I mean, it's a testament to Coach Mays' coaching and just how athletic he is as well. And I love Pirtle, but Varkey's a whole lot more athletic than him, and so I think it's really helped build off of what Pirtle kind of set as a standard, and Kelvin Smith too set a standard 2 years ago. But Pirtle kind of made that, as Kelvin didn't really receive much, but Pirtle kind of made us, hey, North Texas tight ends can catch the football. Jake has carried that on, and so has Varkey's.
Yeah, it's really exciting hopefully both those players are with North Texas until they graduate. Obviously, with the transfer portal, what it is, you can't ever bank on it, but with some NIL incentive that everyone just stays put, right? But anywho, so also the receivers. So I mean, it's great to see Jair Shorter back from injury. Again, he's a game changer. I mean, him and Austin Aune have that chemistry, and just every time he touches the ball, it seems like a 50-50 shot, if not more percentage that he's scoring. So just great to see him back. Obviously, Roderick Burns, just really a great story there. And I'm sold on. I was kind of hesitant on him for the longest time, probably just, as the stigma of a walk-on, I guess. But he just always finds where to be, and has a lot of crucial catches. But really, Anie's doing a good job of peppering it around and not really leaning on one guy too much, like we saw with Jalen Darden in the past. Obviously, Darden warranted that kind of leaning into being who he was. But what are your thoughts on this receiving room and just where it's at as of now?
Yeah, I mean, I've loved HMO ever since he started playing. He's the guy that has had to grind for everything he's gotten, and I love to see all his hard work paying off. And like you said, Jair, big Jair fan. I mean, it's hard for DBs to cover a guy who's that physical and that big. I didn't mention this before, but I mean, Kalon Horton. I know he hadn't been. It's only been like the last couple of weeks that he's really gotten in there, kind of the receiver spot. But I mean, he caught a bubble the other day, and I mean, dude, he's fast and he's quick. That touchdown that he had against, I guess, Western Kentucky, it was a little bit Jalen Darden-ish, in my opinion. I don't know if you went back and watched it, but he was moving on the sideline. And I mean, Damon Ward Ball had a big game and kind of came out of nowhere, and he's I think he's been hurt a little bit here and there, but I mean, he played some last year and did well, and I mean, he had a big game against Western Kentucky. And so I mean, all those guys are ballers.
Yeah. And then, okay, so moving over to the defensive side of the ball, you played under Coach Bennett for 1 year, and you saw the defense mesh late in the season, and obviously, the whole upset victory over UTSA was just cherry on top of the sundae. But that was a lot of fun. Anyway, but it seems that it had a rocky start. I mean, there was the SMU game. SMU, not a fan of SMU, but I think they're really good. Even though I think they're better than what their record reflects, even as of now. Mm-hmm. But the UNLV game, I feel like, was probably the season low, and there was just not a lot to really be hopeful about. But then we've seen Coach Bennett, just continue to be the legend that he is, and it really just seems like this defense has found that stride that you guys had last year, but they found it earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. And what do you accredit that to? Who are you impressed with on the defensive side of the ball? And really just, I mean, what are your thoughts there?
I mean, I've been really impressed with how they've kind of overcame that adversity that they had in the beginning of the season. I mean, it didn't start off great. You start off, 1-2 or 1-3. You win a couple games, and I mean, once they get going, that's the thing about defense is if they can shut them down on the first drive, then that offense and we get settled in, that offense is going to have a real tough time all game. I mean, Mason Richards has really surprised me. I don't know him personally, but I know Coach P has been coaching him up, and I think he's like first in sacks or something in Conference USA, and kind of came out of nowhere. The DBs have been absolutely locked down. Little Ridge has been all over the field, pick six, interceptions. I mean, Gaddy, Quinn. I mean, Coach Holly's got them all locked down. Coach Passwaters has got, see, here I go. Coach Passwaters has got the D line. Coach Gush has got the line. Kevin, KD, Larry. I mean, they're playing out of their minds. We got the Devils, like I said, Mason Richards, D line. I mean, dude, mean green defense all the way. And what's awesome to see is how fans have noticed how well the defense has been playing, because early on in my career, it was all about how great the offense is doing, and the defense just kind of played catch up. But now it's like, hey, that mean green defense is something special. And it's great to see. And it's a credit to Coach Bennett and how he coaches and how he gets the guys prepared. And yeah, man, I'm all in on that mean green defense. I love those guys. And anyone who wants to fight me about anything mean green, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's going to fight anybody, there's got to be some compensation for all parties involved. I mean, I need a 10% referral fee, but,
Sure.
but no, yeah. In all seriousness, I mean, the defense. I mean, and Logan Wilson, out of that
Oh
defensive
yeah,
back
Logan.
group,
I forgot about him. No, for
yeah,
sure.
Conference USA Defensive Player of the Week, I think,
Yeah.
coming off of Western Kentucky. I think that's right. Roderick Brown. Yes, I always get Roderick Burns and Rod Burns and Roderick Browns. I always get them mixed up. But the true sophomore DT, just amazing. And then Mason Richards. I've talked to you a bunch about him off tape, of just super humble, hungry guy. He's going to find a lot of success in football, and whenever football ends for him, he's just, he's just the kind of kid that you want your daughter to, come on, I guess. I mean, that's the only way. He's just a great, great young man. Really big fan of him, and so excited that he's having all this success. But anyway, I mean, so what do you logically think? And we'll get into some questions that people have for you after this, but I mean, really, well, how do you think the rest of the season is going to play out?
So, I think so. We got FIU this weekend, and FIU is a pretty good team. But,
trap game, yeah.
And some people might say that, but I think our offense overwhelms them, and I mean we beat them pretty bad at their place last year. I'm taking Mean Green against FIU. I think we go against UAB and Birmingham, and I think that game. I know that UAB's record might not reflect it, but we might be only like a point or two favorites in that game, just from my prediction right now. And I think we go in and we smoke them. I think UAB doesn't stand a chance. I think Mean Green by 2.5, or probably 2 scores, maybe 3 scores. Mean Green by 17, we'll say. Rice comes into town, and the thing about Rice is they're very much like this, and so you never know what Rice you're going to get. But my prediction, don't matter what Rice we get, because it's at home, it's our senior day, and we're going to wipe the floor with Rice. And then, so I guess we're at that point 6-1 in conference, or 7-1, or whatever we are. December 2nd in San Antonio in the Alamo Dome at 2:00, the Mean Green are going to take on UTSA as 2.5-point underdogs, and give me. We've got the D line playing out of their minds, linebackers fitting the run, covering whatever they're doing, DB's on lockdown, offense is on all cylinders. Coach Blesh has got those offensive guys on point. I'm taking Mean Green by 1,000,000.
Dude, I mean, could you? I mean, hey,
Mean Green by 1,000,000.
Speak it into existence.
And
I'm with.
if NTSN wants to come at me, If North Texas Eagle wants to come at me, Mean Green by 1,000,000. We're going to be 2.5-point underdogs, Mean Green by 1,000,000.
You don't want anything with NTSN. Miles is he's a different guy.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, he's a, yeah. But, that would be, that would that would make up for the heartache that we all went through against the last UTSA game,
no
which
doubt.
just, but yeah, there's a lot to play for. It's very exciting. If they can, pull off the win against UAB, man, that would be, really like, oh, okay, wow, it's really probably going to happen. It's probably going to be a rematch, it's just statistically at that point. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Obviously one game at a time. You don't want to get too emotionally ahead of ourselves, but jumping into some of these questions though. So this first one's from Billy Sierra. He said, what did you see inside the program that convinced you the program was going to turn things around when things weren't looking great?
I think the biggest thing is what they preached to us ever since I was there. And it was a reset mentality. I know that, Coach Luttrell says this on his press conferences and stuff after a win or a loss. But regardless of a win, regardless of a loss, you celebrate for 24 hours, you go back and look at the tape. And right now, the guys aren't thinking about Western Kentucky. The coaches aren't thinking about Western Kentucky and how good they did. It's a week to reset, and it's a week to get better, and it's a week to prepare for the next opponent because the next game is the only game that matters. People may get into, oh, well, we got smoked by SMU. Well, by this time, we forgot about SMU. We forgot about all the previous games because it's just about going 1-0. That's you go 1-0 enough times, you're going to end up in the conference championship. And so I think that's why I was never worried when we started losing some games at the beginning of the year, because I knew it was just it just took a little bit of time. Took a little bit more time than maybe some would like, but now we're 4-1 in conference, and we're in the driver's seat to be in the conference championship.
All right. So next question is coming from Jacob. What is your favorite restaurant in Denton?
Favorite restaurant? I'd probably say Old West Cafe. Old West is real good. Or there's a place in Razor Ranch called Villa Grande. It's pretty good. It's a Mexican restaurant. And so those two are definitely top two. Rusty's Taco is also good, but
Yeah, I can attest. All three of those places I went a couple of times and liked them. Old West Cafe, man, their breakfast.
Oh yeah,
that smacks. But yeah, okay. So this one, his Twitter name is Mr. Failure, and he said, "How many times did Seth say the phrase 3 phases?"
I mean, he said it a lot, and I hear people kind of make fun of him for that, but he said it a lot, but it was never unnecessary. We felt like it was never something that we kind of poked fun at, but because when he says it really is all about 3 phases. I mean, you can't have one without the other, and if one phase does terrible, then the other phases have to pick up the slack, and you can never win a game only winning 1 out of 3 phases. And we talked a lot about the different phases of football, but and as repetitive as it may sound, I mean, football is a repetitive game. It is what it is. So, but I mean, he said it a lot, yeah.
He says 3. What do you think he says more? 3 phases, or at the end of the day?
I'm gonna have to think about that one. It's probably pretty close.
Okay. All right. And any of these questions, you can pass on, or you're close to the situation. So, but whenever 2020, back when it was Ani and Bean were kind of battling out, was there just you don't have to speak for the whole team, but was there a side maybe you were like, okay, let's just ride with, A or B, no pun intended, but Ani or Bean during that year, or were you just kind of more focusing on your own thing at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, when I was playing defense at the time, I really didn't mind who was in. I loved both guys. Bean's a great dude. Ani's a great dude. Good friends with both of them. As a defensive guy, I don't really think most of them cared, just because we just wanted to go score. And, we trusted in Coach Luttrell and Coach Blesh and the coaches before that, that they were going to put the right guy in. And whether it's one guy half the game, the other guy the other half, I mean, we were focused on defense and what we were doing. Really didn't care about what was going on. At least I didn't, and love both guys and wanted to see both of them succeed. And if one was in, I'm his biggest fan. The other was in, I was his biggest fan. Just because, yeah, I think our team adopts a next man up mentality, and we don't care who's in. We just want to win.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, all righty. Well, that pretty much sums it up. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see how the rest of these. I mean, you're Nostradamus. I mean, so we'll hopefully.
I'm telling you, we're gonna be 2.5 to 3.5 point underdogs, and we're going there and win by 1,000,000.
All right, man. If we make it there, you have to jump on again pre UTSA pre conference championship game.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm going down to San Antonio like 2 or 3 days early. I hope everyone knows that. You'll see me down there.
I think. I mean, I didn't make the last trip, but I'll do everything in my power to make this next. If it works out that way, that'll be a lot of fun. Well, anyway, Kyle, thank you so much once again, and as always, go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.